welcome to another guitar show. Today we're talking about funk, and actually on that, we at Your Guitar Academy have got a new funk course coming out where we talk about a lot of the same stuff we're talking about today, the 16-note rhythms particularly. So if this episode tickles your fancy, please head over there and check that out.
And it's free, isn't it?
It is in fact free. Totally free.
It'll be linked to in the description and everything.
So guys, please, before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe, both Your Guitar Academy, don't know why I'm pointing to you, and Andy Guitar, please, as these ping pong between the two of them.
Two channels.
Exactly, alternating. So, Andy.
Yes.
Funk, the big F.
Yes, I can't actually think of any particular funk songs that I've taught on my channel apart from Get Lucky, because that was such a big hit.
Yeah.
I've done kind of a basic kind of acoustic chord strumming version on my channel, and we're going to be covering Want You Back by the Jackson 5, Good Times and Get Lucky as three songs of an example of this funk style. Focusing on rhythm though.
Ah, the key.
Basically, no matter what style, I think funk kind of gets a bad rap sometimes. It sort of has that uncool kind of function band vibe.
Bit of a meme.
But when it comes to funk rhythms and the groove, this is something that you can implement no matter what style of playing that you're doing. We were talking about which kind of songs to learn, and when we were looking at, Michael Jackson songs, we were even thinking of the sort of even little things like that crop
even
up in
like a rock
pop,
song.
rock, any genre, and that's what we want to be focusing on. And what this comes down to, even if you play acoustic guitar, this is really applicable to you because it comes down to 16th strumming. So what we mean by 16th strumming, which is what all of these riffs and a lot of the funk style is essentially based on, is splitting a bar into 16 strums, or at very least your hand is moving 16 times in this kind of pattern, which we would count as 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. And you'll hear that throughout so many songs, regardless of genre again. Even Wonderwall is essentially a 16th rhythm because your hand has to be moving to that amount of strums per bar to be able to do it right. And this permeates more than a lot of people want to learn the downs and ups per a certain riff. And it's not about which downs and ups your hand is moving, because your hand should always be moving. That's rule number one. Your hand is always going to a rhythm of 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. So we have the beat, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we count eighths, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And if you do that with all down strums, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you're already doing it. You're already moving, your hand is moving to this 16th strumming. What I would encourage you to do, first of all, is just catch every one of those. Mute your strings nice and lightly, and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, and try and make that sound as natural as possible. From there, we can add a chord to it. Quite a popular kind of chord that a lot of this stuff is based on is this kind of minor 7 chord. It is a bar chord, but really you could try this with any bar chord, and there's a specific reason for this. I'm going to leave that in, that's fine, because there is a real reason for this. It's because with bar chords, a lot of people are afraid of them because it's kind of clamping down that first finger, because we're used to kind of strumming an F bar chord and it's really painful.
Physical difficulty.
The great thing of this is we can kind of, once your hand is doing this with the right hand, it's not the right hand that gives you your rhythm, it's your left hand because of this. That's just a simple rhythm of pressing, and it's when you squeeze and when you press down the chord that actually creates the rhythm. I'd say that's one of the simplest ones. So essentially, you pick a bar chord that you would want, but I'm going to play E minor and then lift off the little finger to make it an E minor 7, and go down, up, while pressing down the chord, and then make sure that I get as solid a mute as possible. You could even accentuate it. I actually saw Nile Rodgers live, and pretty much for the whole gig, his little finger is about here, just so that he can lift off with the outside of the palm, so not be on the strings, so let something ring out, but then mute at any time so that he gets that, which straight away is kind of that it gives you a groove. You know, you can nod your head to that, and if I just went, we kind of lack a lot of stuff. So especially if this is something you've never done before. So the first exercise I would recommend to get you into this sort of thing, which is a very unsyncopated rhythm. That is accenting the beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. Okay, that kind of idea. And all of these rhythms and funk songs perhaps start on the beat and then go off beat, which is that mix of on the beat and off the beat, which is syncopation.
And there's the off beats.
That's one example of it. Now, a lot of the best examples of this are just going to be learning these songs really, and working through the funk course that Your Guitar Academy has available. That is just a little bit that I would like to touch on really. The 7th chords and 9th chords that tend to just be a case of taking a finger off of a shape that you might already be familiar with. So there's nothing scary there. In fact, a lot of these riffs and songs are a lot easier to play than playing a full bar chord, than like strumming a song with an F bar chord in. So a lot of this is easier to do, especially on electric guitar, than kind of strumming even basic songs. It's actually easier, but there's a few core elements to it. 16th rhythms is the main one. Do you want to talk us through the awesome song Want You Back? In fact, let's have a jam of it first of all. Let's jam a little bit of I Want You Back by the Jackson 5. So what chords are we playing there? Are we in the key of A flat?
We are, unfortunately, for guitar players.
Guitar-friendly key of A flat.
Yeah, they're all great key. And actually this part is just octaves.
Okay.
So just the same note, which gives it just that thickness in the sound.
What frets are we at?
So we're on the 6 of the D and the 9 of the B. Bit of a stretch there, but... And then we're muting that G string in between. And
how would we mute that G string?
So we're muting that just by the first finger coming across. You might be able to see I'm a little bit lazy with my first finger here.
I've heard Paul Gilbert call this as the giant finger.
Oh, is this what he calls it?
That's what he calls it, where that first finger is not only... what fret are we at? Sorry. So this is the 6th fret on the D string, but it's actually muting the string underneath and the string above.
Yes.
So that you can... You could indeed... You know, the only thing I'm doing with my thumb there is muting the thickest string. You're actually strumming all 6 strings. And the right hand, therefore, is just thinking about the rhythm. It's not thinking as much about...
With this right hand going 90...
Oh, absolutely. You need a bit of that.
The muting.
You need a bit of muting.
And even I'm using my pinky then to mute the high E string, the same kind of coming in sideways rather than over the top, which totals do.
And it's not too bad a stretch. It might be unfamiliar to you, but again, on electric guitar, a lot of this stuff is easier. You want to count people through that rhythm to help people out. It's hard.
Strap in. So we've got, remember we're thinking 1 E and A, that's our cut across the bar. That is 1 and then A, 2. 1 E and A, 2. Okay? 1 E and A, 2. And then E is the rest. 1 E and A, 2 E and A. And then coming down. Now,
professional, ladies and gentlemen.
Now that was a lot of thought process.
So a lot of this comes from just knowing how the rhythm goes. Play it a few times, people, just to remind them. Straight away, you're tapping your foot, which a lot of people can't see on camera, but you're tapping the right foot. People could tap the left foot. You can tap your heel.
Nod your head.
You've got to know where the beat is over that, and then it becomes instinctive and it's easy.
I'll try and give some.
And
And so we're getting it. And actually, okay, so this is it.
Okay, so from listening to this song, the first time the riff is played on the original recording, it's slightly different.
Yeah.
So we're teaching the first one, but what we want to teach you is that certain groove, that instinct for it. Because if you get it a little bit different each time with this funk style, it doesn't matter. That's why it's easier
That's the thing.
once you start doing it. And if you do something close, it's actually, again, the original is varied so much.
Yeah. Even in the jam, I was varying it.
But that can confuse people, so we're teaching the first one, which is audible on the recording. Let's have a go at that again. Bam, ba-dum, bam, da-da-dun.
Something like that. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter if we get this first bit.
But the two core things that do matter is the muting and keeping your hand moving. Starting off on the beat and then hitting the offbeats later on, which is a common syncopated pattern. There are examples of starting off the beat at the start, but with funk and that sort of style, typically start on the beat, and then towards the end of the bar you go off the beat. Generally. And if they're the notes that you're accenting, we can't go wrong. Play it one more time and I will join in again. Which I am joining in with the bass line. We'd have that little harmony part as well.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Right hand going.
That kind of idea.
Something like that in the thirds, which we'll talk about in the next episode.
Harmony episode coming up. I mean, it's like we plan these shows.
It's almost as if we put some work in.
But that would be the main thing to get from this. That you can all just straight away kind of jump into. And essentially it's one note.
Yep. And it's
all about the rhythm. Really, really powerful. Let's move on to our next song now.
Gave a guess this tune in there.
Absolutely. So we have one riff through this, which is using some very cool chords, or at least bar chord shapes, at least. But I'm sure. And
actually, you get so much out of just one shape. So we're talking about an E minor 7 bar chord.
So the first one we looked at in this episode.
Yeah, the exact same one. So the first one, there's 4 chords. The first chord is this E minor 7. The next one is you take your pinky and put it on the 10th fret of the B string. Don't move anything else. Then the third one is you lift everything off. So you've just got your bar and your second finger on the 8th fret of the B string. So, oh, sorry. Wrong one.
Little finger down a string. Little finger down. There you go.
Yeah. And then the fourth one is this, which is like an A, very smooth.
It's such a musical chord, isn't it? It's
A6.
so musical.
So third on the 7th of the D, second on the 6th of the G, pinky on the 7th of the B, first on the 5th of the E. I'm surprised I could do that after I couldn't do such lovely chord progression, isn't it?
It's great.
And there's so much of just that.
Following kind of the same rhythm as the bass line. Yeah. I would suggest the bass line might have come first in this song, but I don't know. I wasn't there. Funnily enough, I wasn't there. But dunk 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 dunk. So all this kind of what I would call chickers, all that kind of thing is actually following the bass line, but adding a lot more kind of
just the kind of
a lot more of these chickers in it, and the bass line. shake up of the rhythm there, but we will link to the tab of that bass line somewhere in the description, I'm sure, as we will for tutorials for most of these songs. We've got one for Get Lucky, which is coming up, but those 4 chords are very, as I say, very musical, but also quite based on standard chord shapes, and it's so typical of so many other songs.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of the quintessential like funk songs when you think late 70s funk. It's one that's at the top of the list, but I managed to play.
Now this one I actually do think I know.
It is
Superstition.
And then I also play.
That's
that one?
Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars.
What's the name of it?
I'm going to keep going with this one. Everyone's going to be shouting it. It's too funny to see the screen.
What is the friggin' name of it?
This hit that ice cold Michelle.
Know the tune, can't think of the name. Suddenly the name is just absolutely gone. Put me out of the music.
Uptown Funk.
Uptown Funk, there we are.
It's too funny to see you scream. What else would work? I mean, this riff. That's almost the same.
It's practically Superstition.
Which is?
Again, I know the song. I can play you the song.
Do it now. We're gonna keep playing this
until I get it.
And singing and moving to the rhythm.
Play that funky music.
Yes.
Oh, very good.
That's the great thing about going genre specific. You learn one thing and you suddenly have access to all this other stuff where you're like, it sort of runs from the same vocabulary. There might be, something new that each song teaches you, but it opens up a whole new world. And then if you wanted to turn this into a kind of 12-bar blues, you push it to that kind of thing, which is, in a way, there's a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan and Hendrixy stuff with that. Absolutely.
Actually, this is a good example of something that rhythmically does a little bit different because there's very little syncopation here. The chuck is a chorus, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 1
and 2 and 3 and 4 and
1 and 2, 3, 4. But you can have fun.
To show people what syncopation is, if you were to make that more syncopated, start off with the same rhythm and then just make it more. There we go.
Clears on. It's just about shifting it to the offs rather than the on beat.
Funniest way that I've heard how to describe syncopation. It's like how William Shatner speaks.
I remember. In the wrong place.
It's all kind of in the wrong places.
But it changes it. And that riff is so great because you can do it rhythmically totally different. But it's still the same riff. That's
Absolutely.
What's so great. And that's the freedom of this funk music.
It's a really, really fun example of it, as is Get Lucky.
Oh, yes.
Let's do it. Where's a drummer when you need one? So yes, 4 chords in this entire song.
Again.
B minor. Yeah, where have I heard these 4 chords before? D major, which you can play like that. F sharp minor. And E major. 2 bar chords, which are really tricky to kind of... If you were strumming that for 5 minutes on an acoustic guitar, you'd know about it, and you'd be like... But playing it in this fashion actually makes it easier, and a lot of the layered guitar parts, the part that I was doing... kind of like a really basic, almost pentatonic style line that's... But as soon as you... I've never heard that part before.
No, you wonder how
and
many
we put
parts
the song
are
on, and it's, oh, there it is. But I've never noticed it before. But this part is so similar to the song.
This is the big one. And again, this, like, there's like 2 or 3 parts of this on the track.
Yes, there are a lot of layers. When the song first starts, there's only a couple in, and then it really builds.
So we're talking about B minor up on the 7th fret of the G, B, and E.
Are we talking a 1-finger chord here?
I am. I don't.
And a slight mute, I would suggest, especially just for the average guitar player. The giant finger again, which you don't need giant fingers for. Like, go on, let's have a measure. I'll dry my hands off a little bit. How big are we? No, actually, that's quite good.
A very tender moment.
It's like E.T. But actually, your hands are slightly smaller than mine, and he's a far better guitar player.
You have far too small hands for the size of you.
All right. It's not the size. Come on.
You're like Donald Trump.
But so many people literally think hand size is such an issue. A lot of these kind of smaller grips completely get around that, and they're so much easier. But also, it's no excuse. Look,
no, not at all.
Angus Young, man, is faster than most.
In fact, I've only met one man whose hands were actually too big. I think physically his hands were too big to play it. I
disagree. Chuck Berry's hands are
This is what
massive.
I said. I was like, I've never thought. And then I looked at his hands and went, oh my God.
Well, for certain chords, but anyway, we digress.
Yes, as we do. Okay, so B minor on the 7th fret. Then we're going to the D major, and that is 7, 7, 5, all on the top 3 strings. F sharp minor is 6, 7, 5. And then the E is 4, 5, 4.
So there comes a point when I'm teaching particularly intermediate players when we have to cover something called triads, and which are essentially those chords that you've just taught, using familiar chord shapes but just on the thinnest 3 strings. And the look I always get from people is, why are we doing this?
So we can play Get Lucky.
Not only that, it just brings, it's all of lead guitar becomes so much more about triads. You're always talking about arpeggios when we're talking about improvisation and all that. I'm using an arpeggio of the chord we're playing over. This is a fantastic way into that. And just demo those shapes again. So it's like a B minor bar chord shape, but just played like that.
Exactly, from the E shape. Then
this is the same D chord that I was playing in the rhythm, but just the thinnest 3 strings, making it loads easier to play. This absolutely awful F sharp minor chord to play if you're strumming an acoustic guitar for 5 minutes suddenly becomes like a D minor shape, just higher up. E major is a D but 2 frets up from where it would normally be. It's easier occasionally to learn much higher level guitar when we learn it in context with the song, and triads are such a way into that. Jam it with the rhythm that you were using, because the rhythm is also important.
Here comes the syncopation.
I'm just clicking my fingers so we can... We need foot cam, Chris. We need... Good boots as well, I like them. And again, like lesson 1 of strumming, when I'm teaching a total beginner their first chords, I'm trying to encourage them to tap one of their feet. It would normally be the non-strumming, so I'm a right-handed strummer, I would encourage to tap the left so that the guitar literally doesn't bounce around, especially with acoustic, it literally can. But at an intermediate to advanced level, if you're not tapping your foot, this is just like, what am I doing? You have no reference for where the beat is when you're practicing on your own. It's so fundamental, because the first strum you do is on the offbeat. And if you just listen to it, you hear, there's a lot of those kind of riffs where they start on the offbeat, and it really throws you when you first hear it.
Here's another, so you said, and quite rightly, most of the time it starts on the onbeat. So we've had one that's syncopated, and it's on the offbeat.
The reason we did this one last, it's the most popular song, but it's the most syncopated.
So we had Want You Back, which was on the beat.
Boom.
and then syncopated. Then we had Good Times, which was pretty much all on the beat, a little bit of eighth notes. And then Get Lucky, which doesn't start on the beat, but actually hits the beat in between. So it hits that third beat bang on.
Absolutely. So that is a rundown of a lot of funk kind of songs, but the core techniques and principles behind the songs and how that will make such a dramatic impact to any players playing. Rhythm is more fundamental, I would argue, than the notes that you play. Absolutely. If you have good rhythm, you'll be fine. You'll just be fine on guitar. You'll work it out. And if rhythm you feel is a weakness and something that you want to add to your playing, these three songs and funk playing is in general a great option. And the free funk course that is currently being uploaded to the Your Guitar Academy YouTube channel and website is a phenomenal resource for it. I think that's us for today. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, we have new uploads every Sunday on the Your Guitar Academy YouTube channel and the Andy Guitar YouTube channel. We ping pong between for all of the episodes, so please subscribe to both channels, and we will see you next Sunday. But check out more funk in the description below.